Hey everybody, it's me, it's Lynsey. I'm not at my best today. I'm gonna mess with the phone a little bit, try to get myself in better angle. Does that work? I'm kind of off center. I'm gonna keep messing with it. So everybody, this is me. Not at my best. I'm hungover. I don't get hangovers that often these days. I don't drink nearly as much as I used to, so I am not super aware of my limits when I do, maybe. And last night, they showed Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which is one of my favorite movies ever, at the local theater. So JL and I got dressed up and we went, and it was great. And then some of our favorite people were there, obviously, and we all went out afterwards. But it's also like a theater where you can drink in the theater, so it was like I had a cider on my way when we got dinner, and then I had 2 ciders during the movie, and then we went to a bar afterwards. Oh, look, you can see my lamp. So anyway, that's all. That's just all to say that I'm not at peak condition. I'm in my monster onesie. I'll do a little fashion show for you. It's got pockets. It's pretty stylish. It's fleece. It's got this guy on top. My monster onesie comes out when I want to be snuggly and not serious about my life. So that's what I'm doing today. I've got ginger ale in my Batman cup. I've got some vegetable broth in my Bowie cup. And I've got a gigantic plate of saltines in front of me. So between us, we're going to get through this. It might not be pretty, but it's going to happen. It's going to be fun. And I think that it's a good time, or like a good chapter, I guess, for me to be in this condition, because it's a fluff chapter. It's fun. We're going to read chapter 10 today from my book, which is called Watching Porn, it's called Watching Porn and Other Confessions of an Adult Entertainment Journalist, and it is about my 10-plus-ish years working as a journalist, a critic, a reviewer, multifaceted writer person in and around the adult entertainment industry. And this week, I'm going to read chapter 10, which is about the first time that I went to Vegas for the AVN Awards. And while there, I had a revelation about sex toys, which is then going to go into a little bit of it's like a short history of sex toys, which I researched and put in my book, and it's fun. I'm gonna wait a little while. I'm gonna just wait for a few people to trickle in here. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I'm gonna eat saltines, and you guys are gonna have to watch me. I'm sorry, this is where I'm at. These saltines were also hard-earned. Shouldn't talk with my mouth full. But just before this, I drove to the store to get saltines and ginger ale and Better Than Bouillon, which I don't know if you guys out there are aware of Better Than Bouillon, but it's literally the best soup bouillon. Because I knew I wasn't going to get through this unless I had some saltines. So if you guys want to hear me read this, you're going to have to deal with me eating some saltines, because that's just how today is going. Thanks, JL, for trickling in. So, to compound the excellence of the condition that I'm in right now, I'm having some technical difficulties too. my computer wouldn't connect to the internet a few minutes ago, so I had to restart it. And I like to prepare notes before each reading. So I have sort of like a basic script of like, okay, let's talk about this thing, then this thing, then this thing. And now, because I had to restart my computer, I don't have it ready, and everything is a mess. I am a mess. It's cool. It's cool. We're gonna get through this, guys. We're gonna do it. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna feel better about ourselves after this. JL is also eating saltines. Yes. JL and I are in similar states. Although he probably smells better than I do. He showered and I didn't. I'm telling you everything. This is the true confessions of an adult entertainment journalist. I'm stinky. It's true. Oh, gosh. So, you know, it was worth it. Hedwig was worth it. God, that movie is so good, you guys. If anyone watching this has not seen the movie Hedwig and the Angry Inch, you should stop whatever you're doing at this moment and go watch it. It's so good. It's so good. And John Cameron Mitchell is my hero. I haven't seen the movie for a while. Right before we left New York City, where we lived for many years, Hedwig was on Broadway, and I went to see it for my birthday. It was my birthday treat. I think it was my last birthday before we left New York, and we went to see it with Neil Patrick Harris playing Hedwig. It was super fun. Neil Patrick Harris is just so energetic and dynamic on stage, so that was super fun. And then after Neil Patrick Harris played the role for a while, then John Cameron Mitchell came in and played the role, and I was like, we have to do this. So I managed to get us front row tickets. Maybe that was on my birthday. Crap, I can't remember now. I don't know, but we got front row center tickets, and John Cameron Mitchell was right in front of us, and he kicked JL in the face, and spat water on us, and it was amazing. And then I went back again to see Taye Diggs play Hedwig a few months later. So I saw it 3 times on Broadway. It was pretty epic and absolutely worth it. Like, I spent a lot of money on those tickets, but man, ugh, so good. Okay, all right. I'm gonna do one tweet telling people that I am live over here on the Facebooks. And then I'm gonna open up my scripty thingamabobber to make sure that there's nothing important that I was supposed to say that I forgot, because I'm not ready for the world today. Okay, well, maybe I won't do that because my computer is being a huge pain in the butt today. I don't know what your problem is, computer. Jeez. Okay, guys, do you think that, oh, hi, Sarah. Hello. Welcome. I am so happy to see you here. I'm not in the best of states. I don't feel great, so seeing you here really is brightening up my day. Thank you. So I'm tweeting, come over here and watch my hungover ass reading about sex toys in a onesie. That's my tweet that's going out. So maybe we'll be joined by a few more people in a few minutes. How's it going, Sarah? It's been a while. How you been? Okay. Guys, folks, people of all genders, I'm Lynsey G. I'm just gonna read from my script because I don't know what I'm doing. Hello, everybody. I am Lynsey G. I am a writer, editor, proofreader, publisher, and writing coach. And I am the author of Watching Porn and Other Confessions of an Adult Entertainment Journalist. I'm here today to read you a chapter from my book and then take your questions about me, about porn, and about whatever else. Sarah says, OMG, it's so fun to see you. I love the onesie. Yeah, check this out. And it's got cute little bow things too, which are probably a little disheveled. I just washed this and I haven't really fixed it up. But this is my Christmas present a few years ago and I love it. For the past 11 years, I have written about the adult entertainment industry, first as a reviewer, then as a critic, interviewer, documentary filmmaker, and journalist. In 2017, my book, Watching Porn and Other Confessions of an Adult Entertainment Journalist, was published by the Overlook Press in New York City. It is out now in ebook, hardcover, and this sweet updated paperback edition with this nifty little seal on it, since it won the gold medal in sexuality and relationships in the 2018 Independent Publisher Book Awards. That's my script. You like it? Watching Porn might show up in the memoir section of your bookstore, but don't be fooled. It is actually an informative book about the adult entertainment industry that is cleverly disguised as a memoir. The way I saw it, the adult entertainment industry is so big, so diverse, and so fascinating that I never could have written everything about it if I tried, so instead I wrote about it through my own experiences and the lens of the things that I learned. So it's part memoir, but mostly it just exists to explain the porn industry to people who don't know a whole lot about it, which is most people. So today's chapter is about the first time that I went to Vegas, and how I realized that sex toys were a huge part of the adult entertainment industry that I had not been thinking about before. And then we're going to talk a little bit about sex toys. Whee! So I'm going to have a sip of my broth, and then I'm going to have another saltine, and then I will start to read. So if anybody has anything that they would like to say or put in the chat, now's a good time before I dive in. Ugh. Yeah. I'm gonna get through today, you guys. I'm gonna be productive. I actually do believe that when you're hungover, it's better to have something to do with yourself, like a live stream. Because if you don't have anything to do, then you just sit there and feel bad, and that's not worth it. Sarah says, came for the onesie, staying for the sex toys. You're damn right. Your priorities are in order. Alright. I am now dipping my saltine into my broth, and it feels almost like I'm eating real food. So I went to the grocery store for these, because we didn't have any saltines, and we didn't have any broth. And I parked my car right next to a guy who was also parking. We got out of our cars at the same time, walked into the store together, went around, got our stuff, came out of the store at the same time, walked back to our cars pretty much together. I don't know this guy, so I didn't say anything to him. But he was clearly also doing hangover shopping. He got an 8-pack of LaCroix and tortilla chips. And I was over here with my ginger ale and my saltines, and it was good day to you, sir. Good luck out there. Alright. I'm not good at live streaming, you guys. I'm pretty sure that you didn't, want to come here today and watch me chew saltines and talk with my mouth full. But here we are. We're all in it together. Okay. Oh, wait, somebody just did a thing, and I wonder... Somebody commented on a post. Oh. Nada Bracy says, great combo, Lynsey. I'm going to comment on my post that I'm in a onesie and hungover. So, guys, here we go. Vegas and the sex toy revelation. This chapter, unfortunately, does not have a photograph at the beginning. Some of the chapters have 2 photographs at the beginning. I'm not really sure why whoever actually put the photos in the book, decided where they went. Some of these don't really make sense to me, but whatever. Okay, Vegas and the sex toy revelation. Here we go. Exotica. Exotica is a smaller convention, adult industry convention, which at this point in the book, I think it was late 2009, early 2010. I had just gone to my first Exotica convention in New Jersey. So that's where we're starting off at. Exotica went so well, my personal feelings about Ron Jeremy notwithstanding, that the WAC crew decided to go to Vegas for the Adult Entertainment Expo and the Adult Video News Awards. The porn industry's time-honored annual gathering was held every January at the Sands Expo Center at the Venetian Hotel and Casino in Sin City, although in recent years it has moved to the Hard Rock Casino off the Strip. In 2010, it seemed like the perfect time for WAC to make an appearance. WAC, for those who haven't been following along, was the sort of adult industry sort of trade publication that I co-founded and helped run and edited for about 3 years. It wasn't really meant to be a trade publication. It was meant to be more of like news and interviews and gossip and stuff about the adult entertainment industry. But me and the other friends who started it kind of didn't realize that in 2009, which is when this was all happening, nobody really cared about the porn industry except for people in the porn industry. Like, people were watching porn, maybe not as much as they do now, but almost as much. Like, you could get free online porn, so everybody was watching it, but it wasn't really considered like a topic of conversation that people took seriously at that point. And I mean, it still only is nominally. But at that time, really, like, we were doing interviews and op-eds and all kinds of reviews and stuff, and we thought that, like, why would people not want to read this? But we were in the minority. So what ended up happening is, I mean, we did have readers from outside the industry, but most of the people who frequented WAC magazine were industry people. So, we became sort of a trade publication, not entirely on purpose. Oh, and, okay, little more backstory. The magazine, oh, thank you, Rosetta, thank you for being here. So the magazine called WAC was the offshoot originally of what we were trying to make into a web series. It was going to be about two writers who wrote about the porn industry. My editor / boss / friend, Jay Vegas, he had written and was directing this series, and we were trying to earn money for the series by starting a magazine. We thought that would, like, get the word out, and then we'd be able to raise some funds. And at this stage, we were still doing both of those things. So that's what I'm talking about here. We talked the two lead actors from Pornocracy, which is the name of the series, which we had continued to film on a shoestring budget, into paying for their flights in exchange for a free room in Vegas and a chance to hobnob with porn royalty on camera. The lead actress cashed in on a long-standing offer from her grandmother for a free weekend stay at the Flamingo. We packed up our actors in an overcrowded taxi from Manhattan, shoved Jay Vegas's 6'4" frame into an economy seat, and crammed all 5 of us into a 2-queen room that smelled of cigarettes from the 70s. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Our plan was simple. We would use the 2 press passes we had finagled for the expo on a rolling basis. We'd get 2 people in with those passes, then send 1 person back out with both of them, hand 1 off to another member of the crew, and sneak back in at a different entry point, until all 5 of us were wandering the show floor, looking for interviews to put in the magazine, porn stars to do cameo appearances for the show, and secluded corners quiet enough to film a few scripted scenes we had planned for the trip. It was a racket, to be sure, but for a bunch of broke hopefuls squeaking by in New York, it was exhilarating. And hey, nabbing the dubious title of the skeeviest group at a porn expo? No small achievement. The Adult Entertainment Expo was similar to Exotica in many ways. It was very loud, badly lit, and packed with every manner of perversion. But the booths were bigger, and there were considerably more of them. The premiere producers had pulled out all the stops at their booths, with floor-to-ceiling banners sporting photos of their top stars and latest films. Early 2010 saw an upswing in big-budget adult film features. so there were themed booths and swag everywhere you look. Porn parodies were on their way to the fore of the industry as well, so performers were wandering the show floor in costumes appropriate to their roles as pop culture icons. There were go-go dancers at every turn, a giant penis in the style of a mechanical bull, and even a few sex dolls modeled after porn stars hanging Mission Impossible style from the ceiling. Several stages were set up throughout the hall, from which a parade of adult personalities drew crowds. Roving camera crews bumped into one another, camera equipment tangling. It was a veritable wall of sensory overload, making every pass through the show to find and interview a performer complicated, tiring, and lengthy affair. Our best bet was roaming the show floor without a clear target, then pouncing on unsuspecting porn talent at their signing booths. We quickly and happily discovered that with our press passes around our necks and cameras at the ready, we were rarely rebuked for cutting in front of signing lines. Taking full advantage of our credentials, we nabbed camera time with San Dimas, Asa Akira, and Kaylani Lei, among others. I had reviewed films starring most of them already, so I was able to ask pertinent and timely questions about recent performances. Most of the interviewees responded positively to my knowledge and were more than happy to talk. After 2 days of hitting the show hard, I felt pretty proud of myself. Well, proud and exhausted. Excuse me. By the third day of our stay in Vegas, I was burned out on yapping with porn stars over loud music, overtired from late nights partying and long walks along the strip, and completely over the convention. I left the show floor with our extra pass in hand to go find Matthew. When we decided to take a previously untried back door in, we found ourselves in a smaller exhibition hall near the main show floor I hadn't realized was there. And it was filled with sex toys. I had unwittingly stumbled into the Adult Novelty Expo, an affiliated sub-expo to the one I was there for, and a free bonus in a weekend where free bonuses were basically feeding and housing me. As we moved through the show floor, ogling the vibrators and butt plugs and whips and gags and paddles, a light bulb went off in my noggin. Free bonuses. Adult novelties. Adult industry magazine that I wrote reviews for. Free bonus adult novelties. I marched right up to the first booth I saw and started talking. I told the guy behind the table about the industry magazine I was writing for and my own expertise at reviewing sex toys. And by the way, would he be interested in getting a free review by me, Miss Lags-a-Lot? There's something about Vegas that can inspire even the least self-aggrandizing novices to become bold-faced braggadocios, and it hit me. Little did I realize at the time that I was at the base of a swelling tidal wave of the adult industry's shift in the new millennium. There's a little break in the text, so I'm going to take a little break for some ginger ale. Yeah, that first AVN was pretty... Oh man, we had no money. I mean, we were staying for free at the Flamingo, which is like, it's not great, folks. It doesn't smell great. It smells like cigarettes that people smoked in there for decades before they said that you can't smoke in every room anymore. So no matter whether you're in a smoking room or a non-smoking room, it smells like stale cigarettes from the 70s. Oh, hello. Gutam? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but hello. So, we were staying at the Flamingo, which is basically at one end of the strip. And the expo center that we were going to every day was pretty much at the opposite end of the strip. And we were so broke that we couldn't afford cabs, so we walked. So it was probably, I don't know, about a mile that we walked from the hotel to the expo center, and then we would walk around the expo center all day, to and from the Circle Bar at the Venetian, which is where, like, everybody would hang out. So we'd walk for miles and miles and miles around the expo center, and then we'd walk back to our room later, and usually we'd go back and forth a few times during the day, and so by like 3 days, by the time that 3 days of that had gone by, we were exhausted. But I still had this whole thought process where I was like, hey, wait, I write for an adult magazine, I write reviews, I could write sex toy reviews. Why am I not doing this already? So, now, a short history of sex toys. Although archaeologists have been collecting quote-unquote Ice Age batons from dig sites for years and delicately avoiding publicizing their intended uses, A 2005 dig in a cave near Ulm, Germany, caused too much of a stir to keep prehistoric phalluses under wraps any longer. I'm going to mispronounce this, but in the Hohlfels cave, an 8-inch long, inch-wide siltstone baton in the shape of a penis, with carvings near the wider tip that made its primary use obvious, forced the scientists in charge to admit that they had found the world's oldest confirmed dildo. The dildo, please excuse me while I gleefully overuse this term to counter all that baton nonsense, is estimated to be around 28,000 years old. That's the Paleolithic era, folks. Pieced together from 14 separate fragments found around the cave, the dildo appears to have been abandoned after it shattered, one hopes not during use. Its ground and polished veneer was enough to convince researchers that, while it may also have been used to knap flint, it was most definitely meant for insertion into body cavities. For fun. Like a dildo. This Stone Age diddling device was made in the same time period as the Venus figures that proliferated in Europe in the Paleolithic period, one of the earliest examples of which was actually found in the same cave. But whereas those were mere visual turn-ons, this was meant to complete the job. Other similar batons from later periods have been found worldwide, made from antler, bone, leather, ivory, camel dung, coated in resin, but still gross, and wood as well. And the phallic novelty train didn't stop in pre-recorded history, not by a long shot. In ancient Greece, dildos, called olisbos, were standard issue for wives whose husbands were away at war to prevent female hysteria. The Greeks, you see, thought that women expelled sperm-like seed at orgasm, like men. This was likely a misinterpretation of the common thick, milky vaginal excretion. I have a whole long parentheses in here. Okay, the excretion, lovingly dubbed cream in modern parlance and considered the only confirmed female ejaculation by the scientific community, that often accompanies orgasm in women. And it was thought to commingle with male ejaculate at conception. In ancient Greece, the theory was that if women did not expel their seed regularly, it would turn toxic and lead to hysteria, a dreadful ailment that could result in all manner of symptoms. A contradictory theory held that, if unused for too long, the uterus could wander throughout the body, perhaps in search of satisfaction, and cause blockages and disruptions. The word hysteria, as a result, has its roots in the Greek word for uterus. Treatment for this condition could be self-administered with an olisbos, or by a doctor stimulating a woman's pelvic region, usually by hand, but sometimes with water or other means, until she climaxed. This practice continued right up until the popularization of the vibrator in the late 19th century in Europe. But naturally, Europe was not the only place to give into an appreciation of phallic novelties. The dildo has a long and noble history in China, too, where great men were known to keep wives, mistresses, and virtual armies of concubines, all of whom were expected to stay faithful to the one man in charge. Left with a lot of free time between conjugal visits, these women were often gifted with dildos made of bronze and other precious materials to keep themselves company until the man of the house could pay his next visit. In India, ivory and gold were employed for ceremonial deflowering ceremonies, in which a holy man would sometimes penetrate a virgin on her wedding night to avoid besmirching her new husband's penis with hymen blood. It's so thoughtful. A charming story from the last years of the BC era tells that the forward-thinking Cleopatra filled a gourd with a swarm of bees, then shook it. The buzzing of the angry insects inside provided a pleasant sensation that the queen quite enjoyed on her nether regions, and thus the vibrator was born. Whether this story is true or not, and it's very likely not, vibrations have long been known to titillate the sensitive organs between our legs. But it wasn't until 1734 in France that a mechanical apparatus for buzzing one's bits was invented. The I don't know how to pronounce this, probably tremoussoir? The tremoussoir was a handheld device that had to be wound up with a key, and which actually was a quite nice model. It never took off, however, and wasn't replaced until Victorian times, when hysteria became a prevalent medical condition in England and America. Doctors' hands were getting tired from delivering so many pelvic manipulations, so in 1869, American doctor George Taylor patented the steam-powered manipulator, which reportedly took up an entire room, but nevertheless got the job done. In 1880, Dr. Joseph Granville of London developed a smaller electric vibrator, and the field of sex toy development took off at a gallop from there. Now, actually, that's like the understood story of how vibrators came to be. but I believe it's actually been debunked. I haven't read the paper that was released, I think it was last year, but some researchers tried to get to the bottom of that story about, Victorian doctors using vibrators to treat their patients, and couldn't actually find any proof that it actually happened. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it didn't happen, but if there's no records of it, then maybe it didn't. I don't know. I should read up on that, because now I have a book with like false information in it, maybe. But it's kind of too late because it's already in the book. But always keep learning, even in the field of sex toys. When I hit Vegas in 2010, I was witnessing a groundswell that has since become a tidal wave of sex toy innovation and popularity. With the advent of easy online browsing, research, and purchasing, sex toy customers are now able to discreetly purchase, without the black plastic bag walk of shame from the sex shop, any sex toy they want. From the adult industry's perspective, consumer preferences in 2010 were being illuminated by way of easily countable, trackable, and follow-upable dollars being spent online. Sex toy customers, it became clear, wanted a variety of sex toys as diverse as their bodies and desires, and they wanted quality. And now that buyers were at last able to contact the manufacturers easily and privately via email, discuss their purchases in online forums, review them, rate them, and demand more from them, something amazing happened. Consumers, especially women, became an active, vociferous, and lucrative demographic for the adult industry's novelty division. Of course, women have always been on the lookout for sex aids, as my first incredulous experience with Boner Beach had so graphically shown me, and as the unflagging popularity of the magic wand, personal massager, has proven since the early 1960s. And once the sex toy industry learned how to market its wares to women in more palatable ways, women responded. First of all, the landslide of opinion favored better designs. Jelly dongs and lifelike phalluses have their place, of course, but it turns out that most consumers prefer something a bit less obvious. Something they can take on vacation without fear of embarrassment should their luggage be searched. Something they can show to their lover. Something, well, pretty. Ergonomics, too, are a big draw for modern sex toy consumers. Devices that don't take a lot of explaining, are easy to use even in the throes of passion, and which won't make your hand or other body parts cramp up mid-session, are attractive to the average customer. Toys that can hit the G-spot or the P-spot, which is the prostate for those who aren't aware, without contortions, or which can be removed easily from a butt without fanfare, are big winners. There's also a growing market of toys designed for disabled folks, sufferers of carpal tunnel syndrome, and people with larger bodies for whom some of the older designs were difficult. Sexual pleasure for everyone. The democratization of 3D printing has vaulted the sex toy design field forward. Now that designs can be dreamed up and then made real in a short time by any company with a 3D printer, molds can be developed at low cost and new toys created in small or large batches faster than manufacturers a decade ago could dream possible. Catering to even a small segment of the population that's looking for exactly what they're selling, small companies making everything from silicone dragon dongs to multi-size ball gags or on a relatively minuscule scale are able to succeed because of the ease of manufacturing. Today's sex toy shopper is also looking for the finest in materials. The days of the cheap plastic dildo are long gone, as is the reign of carcinogenic, phthalate-ridden butt plugs. As an interesting side note, I recently learned from Sarah Forbes' lovely memoir, Sex in the Museum, that the, quote, adult novelty title so often applied to sex toys came about because sex toy companies could, quote, get away with selling toxic items by simply attaching the word novelty, implying that it shouldn't actually be used. Gross. These days, the savvy consumer can find toys of medical-grade silicone, annealed glass, stainless steel, and other non-porous, non-toxic, body-safe substances. Many of these are on offer from manufacturers that take care to reveal as much about their production process as possible, and some of whom go so far as to source their materials sustainably and power their production renewably. And, of course, no matter how well a company has a specific customer pinned down ethics-wise, sex toy purchasers have bodies, desires, and sexual needs more diverse than anyone could expect. Variety is key to success in the sex toy industry, which means that as companies find their target demographic and work hard to supply it with what it needs, there is virtually always another demographic waiting for its turn. The diversity of human sexuality translates into an almost inexhaustible marketplace, in which the only limit seems to be imagination. And as the means of production continue to democratize themselves with better technology and faster production, imaginations are running wild. The latest development for many sex toys is a growing capacity for smartness. That is, many adult novelties are now programmable or tech-responsive. Some have memories of their own that can record and play back your favorite vibration patterns, and even collect data about your arousal pattern. Others can be linked to an app that tunes the device to music. A few can be controlled remotely, enabling couples in far-flung corners of the world to maintain long-distance relationships with very real sexual intimacy. And there's an advancing arm of the industry specializing in pairing interactive webcam technology with sex toys that users on both ends can experience, some of which can be paired with virtual reality technology for a fully immersive experience. Every new advance in consumer electronics is up for grabs in the sex toy world, and sex tech startups are taking off everywhere you look. And then, of course, there are the porn tie-ins. Most sizable production companies now offer their own branded lines of sex toys, and porn stars sometimes have branded signature novelties under their names. Naturally, male porn stars like John Holmes and Lexington Steele have had their most famous body parts immortalized in rubber and silicone for years. But the big money in porn star genitalia reproduction these days has shifted to the ladies. The Fleshlight Company got its start in 1998 with a simple masturbation sleeve cased in an oversized container that posed as a flashlight. The brand, however, rose to a stratosphere of stardom rarely experienced in the jerk-off sleeve business by contracting female porn stars to have their mouths, vulvas, and anuses molded and then recreated in Fleshlight's patented phthalate-free secret material. They use a proprietary molding goop that none of the models I've asked have been willing to divulge, but I have heard a rumor that it employs seaweed or maybe algae? I don't know. These fleshlights are then made available for purchase by lusty fans worldwide. The Fleshlight Girls, as they're called, and now also the Fleshjack Boys, are basically a roster of porn's hottest stars. Discerning fans can purchase their favorite model's most delicious orifice and pair it with one of a wide variety of inner textures, making for a virtually endless set of masturbatory possibilities. The Fleshlight is far and away the most popular sex toy line ever marketed exclusively to people with penises. And it's easy to tie in to pornography's biggest names. Has made it an industry favorite. And since the company is rumored to offer a fantastic royalty rate to models whose naughty bits are made into toys, everybody seems to win. But the Fleshlight isn't the only rodeo in town for fans looking for up-close and personal experiences with their favorite performers. The Real Doll takes the concept to a completely new level. While blow-up dolls with porn star faces are nothing new, Real Dolls are fully articulated, life-sized silicone recreations of human sex partners. In addition to its fully customizable line of standard sex dolls, the Real Dolls manufacturer, Abyss Creations, has partnered with a high-end porn producer, Wicked Pictures, to offer realistic recreations of its contracted models. That's right. For a mere $7,000 to $10,000, Asa Akira, or at least a startling facsimile thereof, can really, truly be yours. There are plenty of other toys for the be-penised individuals among us, many of which have nothing to do with porn stars, and that segment of the industry is really just getting started. The unprecedented growth of the industry in female and gay male-oriented toys has normalized the idea of sex toys in the average American bedroom, leaving many men more willing to experiment with sexual aids than they may have been in the past. Vibrators and dildos are increasingly designed for use by both sexes and all orientations. Strap-ons are getting more popular with people of all body types as pegging is becoming more mainstream. Masturbation sleeves not produced by Fleshlight are entering a new renaissance with the advent of smart technology that can turn an MP3 player or phone app or webcam session into an interactive experience. Many of these sleeves contain internal mechanisms that vibrate, squeeze, and pulse like the inner workings of a human orifice, and they're surprisingly sexy. I actually stuck my finger in one of them a few years ago at AVN. It was pretty cool. In short, the sex toy industry is booming, and it seems that everyone is benefiting. As of late 2015, the global sex toy market was estimated to generate $15 billion in revenue yearly, with the projections neatly into the $20 billion range by 2020. Sex toys have become more accessible with online shopping and friendly, sex-positive brick-and-mortar stores, but they've also expanded as luxury items, with high-end brands like Lilo and Jimmy Jane offering beautifully designed, ergonomic, body-safe pleasure objects at the top end of the market. Meanwhile, the populist players like Trojan and Durex have been given shelf space in the sexual wellness aisles of CVS's and Walmart stores next to the condoms. Basically, sex toys are more acceptable socially than they've ever been. With sex toy review columns hugely popular online, customer reviews proliferating on sales websites, and the so-called passion party, a sex toy selling party often held in private living rooms, taking off in suburban homes worldwide. Sex subscription boxes, like Unbound Box, The Pleasure Pantry, and Playbox, are cashing in on the subscription box craze of sending sexy goodies to subscribers in discreet packages on a rolling basis. Sex toy review blogs continue to proliferate as more people of all ages and creeds catch on to the idea that writing openly about one's sex life can result in an embarrassment of sex toy goodies, much as I did back in 2010. I walked out of the Adult Novelty Expo that day with bags full of hundreds of dollars worth of sex toys. I had exchanged information with numerous booth mavens and promised to be in touch about butt plugs, couples vibrators, and a few complicated-sounding wireless devices. In short, I was in sex blogger heaven. Today, I have an entire dresser filled to the brink with sex toys in my bedroom. I wrote that a few years ago. I now have 2. It's become something of a conundrum during moves. It doesn't make sense to keep them all, but selling lightly used sex toys on the internet seems like a rough path to travel, and offering them to friends puts me right into creepazoid territory. Back in Las Vegas in 2010, I was just learning where the borders of that fabled land fell. And that is the end of that chapter. The next chapter is called Creepazoid Territory. You probably really can't see that because it's backwards, but you know, that's what's gonna happen next. So that was actually a longer chapter than I thought. But, you know, I hope that everybody learned a little bit about sex toys. Yay! Oh boy. Ugh. I am starting to feel slightly less bad than I did before. I think that the saltines and the broth and the ginger ale are doing me good. So yeah, sex toys. Woo! It's actually funny. I did sex toy reviews for Whack Magazine and then on my own blog for a while. But I haven't done them for quite a long time. I don't even know when the last time I reviewed a sex toy was. Because it's like, on the one hand, it's great that like I get a whole bunch of free sex toys. That's fantastic. But then it puts me in this weird place where like I don't really want to talk super openly about my own time using sex toys. So like it's hard to write about in a way that is like helpful to the person reading it, but also like doesn't just feel like I'm like oversharing and being kind of gross, you know? I don't know, and that's just me, like my personal comfort level isn't very high with that. But the other thing is, like, if a sex toy company sent me a free sample of their product, which is worth like a good amount of money, and it's a product that is designed to give me pleasure, like, I can't really write a bad review. You know what I mean? Like, I might write like a slightly less good review for something that wasn't great for me, but like even if it's not great, it's not going to be terrible. It's a sex toy. So I always felt like I don't know, I felt like I just gave everything good reviews, and that's okay, I guess, but like what's the point of reviewing something and being like, this was fun and I like it, and then doing the same thing for the next thing and the next thing? Like, it seems like there has to be some stakes there, but I'm also kind of unwilling to say, like, this sex toy totally sucks when a company sent me their toy for free. Like, that was very nice of them to do that, you know? So after a while, I just kind of was like, I don't know. If somebody released something that was, like, really different and new and exciting, then I could at least talk about, like, all of the features and everything. But after a while, I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But people still send me sex toys. And like, that's great. I am fine with that. but I haven't done reviews for ages and people still send me stuff. So yeah, I've got 2 dressers full of sex toys. They're little dressers. They're like square, maybe like that big square. So not huge, but they are chock full of sex toys. And I don't know what to do with all of them. If anyone out there has thoughts on like ways to like dispose of sex toys that aren't like, I don't want to send them all to a landfill. Like, most of them still work. I just can't really use all of them. And I would like to like let other people have them. But I just don't know how to do that without being super creepy, you know? So yeah, if anybody has thoughts, let me know, because I have an embarrassment of sex toys in my house. And yeah, like I said, every time that we move, it's like, okay, well, I could pack a giant suitcase full of sex toys and put it in this moving truck. I guess I have to because I don't know what else to do with them. But it's like, you know, like lugging these things around like over and over again. Awkward. JL says sculpt a fun love monster. Yeah, that would be fun. I don't know what we'd do with it then, though. Maybe we could make a CEO of a company. If anybody out there watches BoJack Horseman, there was a whole storyline where Todd, this asexual character, he wants to date this person who's not asexual, but he knows that, like, you know, she's gonna want sex and he's not gonna want it, and so he tries to make her like a sex robot. And it's basically like a bunch of like household appliances with like dildos all over it. And it can talk, but it, you know, it says like dirty stuff only, and it like somehow becomes the CEO of the company that Todd works for. Speaking of sex robots, what an interesting field. One thing that I didn't mention in the book is that AI is becoming bigger in the sex toy industry. And there is now actually an AI-enabled sex robot. It's actually from the same company that makes the sex dolls that I was talking about in the book. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Sarah, you probably don't want your kids listening to this. It is smart that you go. But thank you so much for stopping by. I hope that you have fun with your day. A little crossover with a show I'm enjoying. Ooh, I will have to check that out. Is it Sex Education? We watched that last weekend. We binged it. It was so much fun. Well, thank you so much for coming by, and tell the boys we said hi, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your Sunday. Still eating saltines. This is the least glamorous live stream that has ever occurred. Oh, Sex Around the World. Interesting. I'm totally gonna watch that. Oh my gosh. Maybe that'll be the rest of my hangover day. Probably not. I have a ton of work to do. It was great that you came by. Thank you so much, Sarah. So, these sex dolls, most of them are like, they're fully articulated, so you can move them and pose them however you want, but they don't like get up and walk or anything like that, because they're not there yet, right? But there's now an AI program that you can get, and I think right now it's all through a tablet, because the dolls' heads like they're not able to actually speak yet. They're working on it. But you can actually communicate with the doll via the tablet. So like the sort of AI exists only in the tablet, but it can be synced to the doll's mouth. So although the voice comes from the tablet at this point, it's like the doll is talking. And I interviewed the guy in charge of the company who makes real dolls. He's a really interesting person. We had a really great conversation. It was so interesting. And he was saying that it basically works so you have your doll, and you can program her personality based on, I forget how many. there's a whole list of like personality traits, and you can toggle it so that she's more stubborn, less stubborn, likes talking about this subject, not that subject, so that you can make your doll the type of person that you want to hang out with. And I think one of the like personality traits is how interested in sex they are. So, if you're someone who is more interested in like the companionship aspect, you can make your doll not particularly interested in sex. But if you're someone who wants to, have a lot of sex with your doll, then you can make her way more interested in sex. So she'll like talk about it more and like try to get sexy with you. And so like you can really model your doll however you want, personality-wise, with this AI. And then the AI learns, as you go. So you can like, he said that it's still pretty rudimentary. Like you could say, if your doll's name is like Betty, you could be like, Betty, tell me about Albert Einstein, and she'll have some information that's like loaded into her programming, and she can say a little bit about Albert Einstein. If you were like, can you talk about what you think about Albert Einstein's sexual preferences, she probably wouldn't have a lot to say there. But it builds. And he said, like, the AI program that they use is constantly updating itself too. So your doll will get smarter over time. And they are also in the process of developing, like I said, a more integrated like robot head, so that the doll could actually talk, rather than going through the tablet. So it's all very, very new. And I'm sure that there are probably more advanced sex robots existing somewhere in the world, likely in East Asia, but I don't know so much about them. There's even, at this point, sex robot brothels, particularly in East Asia, but I think that there are some also in Europe. It's interesting. I think that the laws around sex doll brothels are still being figured out, because it's not a brothel. So in places where brothels are not legal, sex doll brothel sort of exists in this like in between status. So there's a lot of news on my Google alerts that comes in about like sex doll brothels all the time, where people are trying to kind of figure out how that works. It's such a fun idea, but I'm also like really worried about hygiene and like health there. Like, I guess it's easier to take care of your sex doll's health than like an actual person. But I don't know. I have a lot of questions, I guess. So that's a whole thing that exists in the world now. And sex robots are becoming more and more sophisticated. There actually was supposed to be a conference about sex robots, literally right here in Missoula last month. I was so excited, because it's the kind of thing that I would love to attend as a journalist, but like, why would that ever be in Missoula? That's the kind of thing that like, if it had come to New York and I was living there, I would have gone. But it just happened that they were going to host it this year, or last year rather, at the University of Montana, which is here. And actually the guy who runs the Real Dolls company, who I spoke to for an interview a while back, was one of the keynote speakers, and I was so excited. I was going to meet him, like, we were going to talk and nerd out about sex dolls. It was going to be great. But weirdly, so there were two conferences that were like sister conferences that were going on at the same time. One of them was specifically about sex robots. And then the other one was more like general, I can't remember exactly what, computers and electronics and smart like AI type stuff. So there were these two separate conferences. And the keynote speaker for the not sex doll conference was going to be Steve Bannon. Like, I don't know why. I think that he was going to talk about how, what was it? Something really weird, like how nationalism in computer science is good for minorities, I think. is what he said he was gonna talk about. And like, people freaked out. I mean, so I live in Montana. I live in Missoula, Montana, but Missoula is like the liberalist haven in this part of the country. And the university particularly is quite liberal leaning. And when they announced that Steve Bannon was going to be the keynote speaker for this convention that was going on alongside the sex doll convention, people lost their minds. People were so mad. Like, they didn't even announce if he was actually going to be here or if he was just going to do like a video, like a teleconference thing for his speech. But people went nuts and started like protesting and getting super angry and writing op-eds in the papers and everything. And I was so excited. As a journalist, I was like, I'm going and we are going to see what happens and it's going to be a shit show and I cannot wait. But people actually protested so much that they canceled both of the conventions because they weren't willing to tell Steve Bannon, like, you can't be the speaker because people hate you. And I think that, like, enough of the presenters and, I guess just people who were supposed to attend, like, dropped out, in protest over Steve Bannon. So they basically didn't even have a conference anymore. So they said that they postponed it, but I haven't heard any news about it being rescheduled. And if it is, I doubt it's going to happen here. So I'm super bummed because I really, like, I want to go and sit in a conference room in a hotel or whatever and, like, listen to people read scholarly papers about sex robots. That sounds like so much fun. I'm such a nerd. But yeah, like, I don't know what it would have been like, and then I could have watched people, like, losing their shit over Steve Bannon. It was going to be fantastic, but it didn't happen. So I'm sad. And I'm also sad because this past week was the XBiz conference in LA, which is sort of like the adult entertainment, like, trade. It's more of a conference than a show, but there's also an awards ceremony attached to it. And I went to that a few years ago when I was researching for the book. And XBiz was really interesting because it's very much, like, industry focused. And there were a lot of, like, great panels and, like, super interesting talks given. And then this coming late week and weekend is going to be AVN. So the Adult Entertainment Expo and the Adult Video News Awards and the Adult Novelty Expo are all happening in Vegas. And I am not going for the first time in a few years. I don't think I went in 2015. But before that, I've been every year for a while. Last year I went and did an article about makeup artists in the porn industry, and I met some really cool people and had a blast. But this year I am doing other stuff and I don't have the time to go to Vegas or the money, so I'm not doing it. So I'm pretty bummed. But, you know, honestly, I kind of hate conventions, like show. I hate expos. The conventions are fun because you, like, learn stuff, but expos, I hate milling around with, like, crowds of people, and so I'm not super bummed, but I'm a little bummed that I'm not going this year. Anyway, so the next time that I read from the book, I will talk more about the Vegas Expo the first time that I went. It really is an interesting mix of people and things that is, like, very unique. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, sort of the mix of humanity that you get at the AVN show. And that's going to be in 2 weeks. So February 3rd, I believe, is the next time I will be reading. And I'm very hopeful that that time I won't be hungover. I mean, I might be in the onesie again, though, because this is just cool. But I can't promise anything. I don't know for sure what's going to happen. Yeah, and I think that's it. I think I'm going to get going. I've been on here for about an hour, so it seems like a good time to peace out. I'm going to eat a whole bunch more saltines, drink a whole bunch more ginger ale, and, you know, try to get rid of this headache. So, thank you, everybody who dropped by. If anybody does have any questions or comments or anything, now is the time, because I am about to turn this baby off if you're not feeling interactive. So I would sing the Jeopardy theme song right now, but I just don't feel like it. And I'm going to sneeze. All right. Yeah. That was not fun. When you have a really bad headache, sneezing is not cool. Wait, for me. Okay, all right. I'm gonna call it a stream. Thank you, anybody who actually stuck around to watch my poor hungover ass try to limp through this live stream. I appreciate you being here. I hope that you had at least a little bit of fun, and I hope that I will see you back here in 2 weeks when I will read Chapter 11, Creepazoid Territory. Bye!